Dana White is sick and tired of hearing about Triller Fight Club, especially when it comes to constant calls and messages from the company. However, that's only one of the many reasons why White hates Triller and has said some pretty harsh things about them. He stated and made it very clear that he's tired of hearing about them. But aside from all the calls, what are some of the other reasons White hates Triller? In today's video, we'll be getting into just that. But before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new videos we post. Over the past few weeks, White has been inundated with questions about Triller, especially after Jake Paul got into an altercation with former two-division champion Daniel Cormier at a recent UFC event, not to mention the YouTube star knocking out Octagon veteran Ben Askren in his most recent fight. Numerous current or former UFC fighters have also engaged in trash talk with Paul while asking to face him in his next appearance with Triller. Time after time, White has said he has no interest in doing business with Paul or his brother Logan, who recently took part in an exhibition bout against Floyd Mayweather. Regardless, White still ends up getting into an unintentional war of words with Triller quite often, despite his best attempts to avoid the subject. "Don't even ask me about these idiots," White said at the UFC 262 post-fight news conference. "Who cares? Does anybody? You do? I don't care what they think. You think I care what Triller thinks? I don't even take their calls. This idiot calls me every day. He calls me every day. Please answer my call. Please talk to me. Why won't you talk to me? Because I don't care about you. Do your thing. Leave me alone. Go do whatever it is you're doing. Knock yourself out. I couldn't care less. I have no interest in talking to any of those idiots. They can do their thing. Do your thing. Stop talking about me. What do you care what I'm doing? Go do your thing." White added that he understands why Triller and Paul continue to name drop the UFC and its fighters, but he isn't any less annoyed by the situation. More or less, White expressed confusion toward the Triller operation. "What are you doing?" White said. "I don't even know what you're doing. What is this thing you're trying to build? What are you doing? What do I have to do with it? What do I have to do with it or my guys? Do your thing. What are you doing? Are you starting an MMA organization? Go away. Go do whatever you're doing. Stop texting. Stop calling me. Stop asking the media to ask me things, okay? Beat it. Get lost." White's comments came hours after it was reported that he had blocked a potential boxing matchup between Oscar De La Hoya and Georges St-Pierre that Triller tried to put together because GSP, although inactive, remains under contract with the UFC. To put it simply, UFC is a multi-billion-dollar fight company that's raking in reliably big bucks these days off of the back of a monster deal with ESPN. So if you think that makes them more likely to allow other promoters or fighters, or even their own fighters, to make money in the combat sports space, you'd be wrong. As stated, news surfaced that UFC had blocked its former superstar Georges St-Pierre from boxing Oscar De La Hoya at an upcoming Triller Fight Club event. De La Hoya versus GSP is exactly the kind of spectacle that could have made a good chunk of cash. Most importantly, in many's minds, for St-Pierre. George did well financially with UFC, but never came close to touching even 10% of the revenue generated by his fights in UFC. So with the company stopping him from a fun opportunity to pocket $10 million plus, many think it's lame. When asked about the refusal to allow St-Pierre to participate, UFC president Dana White dodged the question and instead went into a rant on the Triller guys. And this is when all the F-bombs started, which we haven't seen drops like from Dana in years. After his previous statements, White went on to say, "And then you got Oscar, this idiot again, in the car that night. Come with us and make more money than you've ever made in your life." We heard that before. Chuck Liddell's here tonight. Grab him. Ask him if he made more money than he ever made in his whole life when he went with Oscar De La Hoya. But you guys keep asking me about these idiots. You guys know they're a joke, but you keep asking me about them when you know they're a joke. You know this is bull, and you know they are full of it, White included. But this is what you want. You want me to do this. I tried not to do it, and I can't help myself. But I don't care what they're doing. Go away. Go do what you're doing. Stop texting me, stop calling me, and stop asking the media to ask me things. Beat it. Get lost. All in all, many suppose White did actually answer the question as to why he didn't let GSP fight for Triller. He doesn't like them. He doesn't like what they're doing, and he's not going to help them make one additional cent, even if it means financially tripping up one of his biggest historic stars. Speaking of disliking, another aspect of Triller Dana has had some not so nice things to say about is their fighters. To get more specific, Jake Paul. Dana White believes Jake Paul will get his comeuppance soon and admitted that he doesn't hate the YouTuber. The pair have clashed on social media a lot over the past few months amid Paul's charge into the world of combat sports. A few months back, Paul took part in the Triller Fight Club's Jake Paul vs. Ben Askren boxing event, which got a lot of attention. White was so confident Askren was going to knock out the YouTuber, he was willing to put $1 million on the line. However, it appears that bet was never made, and Paul went on to KO the former UFC fighter earlier in April. He has continued to stir up the MMA world by turning up at UFC 261, where he got into a confrontation with Daniel Cormier. To get more into it, Cormier was doing his job as a UFC 261 commentator when it was brought to his attention that Jake Paul had just arrived, which was evident by the hateful Jake Paul chant chant reverberating throughout the arena. Moments later, Cormier looked behind him at the YouTube star turned professional boxer and was taken aback by what he saw. He's like making faces at me and waving at me, Cormier said. I'm like, what in the world is happening? What is happening? He went and dealt with the situation. So I just walk over there and he kind of leans in like we're going to have a conversation and his hands are in his pocket. I say, hey, I'm not going to play your games. I go, don't mess with me. I'm not a kid to play with like this. I'm not going to be on the internet messing around and all this other stuff. I go, keep my name out of your mouth. Once the security and everybody got around, he started to play big boy a little bit, starts trying to point, do all that. But initially his hands are in his pocket and he kind of leans in. I said, I'm not going to play your game. I said, you're going to get yourself hurt messing around. I'm not going to fight with you and play these public shenanigans. He goes, well, you said my name first. Don't play with me. I'm not a kid to be messing with like that, Cormier concluded. The confrontation made unexpected headlines in the middle of UFC 261 after it was captured on video from multiple angles. Going back to the Paul versus Askren fight, it resulted in great pay-per-view numbers. In fact, Triller claimed they sold 1.5 million pay-per-views and also declared that they generated $75 million on the event, which became public knowledge when Jake Paul himself made a post on his Instagram. However, UFC president Dana White believes Triller lied about their pay-per-view numbers. In the UFC 261 post-fight press conference, the media team asked White about his views on doing business with Jake Paul as he brings pay-per-view numbers. Dana replied, the numbers are there? No, I don't know if the numbers are there. Listen, do you know what will happen to that guy if he fights in the UFC? You get me talking about this guy again. It's not a secret that White dislikes the so-called problem child. Later in the video, White said that Paul is getting hand-picked opponents. When White shared his point of view on Triller's pay-per-view buys, he said, the numbers that you are hearing that they did are full of it. They didn't pull those kinds of numbers at all, not even close. Dana stated he's not at all willing to do business with Jake, the reason being the problem child influences the youth and always makes everyone take notice and talk about him. Hence, his presence at any event guarantees that there will be eyeballs. As already mentioned before, it is not a secret that White dislikes the YouTuber. To explain why he will never do business with Paul, White said, it's just not what I do. What I do is what happened tonight. What happened tonight is we sold this place out and this place was packed. The UFC president added, what happened here is what I do, the best versus the best. There is a market for that. People want to see that stuff, and that kid is going to make a couple of bucks, then good for him. But that's not what I do. It might be working great for Jake Paul, but Dana White doesn't believe that the problem child will be a good fit for his business. Hence, the UFC president will refrain from doing business with Jake Paul. With that said, that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching.